I remember when I was about 8 years old, back in 2006. I was just a girl.
I remember when I was about 11 years old back in 2006. I was just a boy.
I used to wonder what kind of a world we'd be living in 60 years' time.
The grown-ups were talking more and more about the oil running out.
They made it sound really scary.
And at school, we learned about this thing called global warming.
But back then, I didn't know really what they were on about.
I just heard the word transition and immediately a light bulb went off in my head. The power of the transition movement is already in its name.
The great thing about the transition movement is it's so positive, it's doing positive things.
It's a grassroots thing. It's something that you and I can get involved with.
Very much focused on your own place and ground and where you are, and this is where you need to take care of and build relationships and sort the world out from.
It's about not waiting for anybody else to fix things for us. It's about getting on with things ourselves.
And it is actually addressing the issues that are going to increasingly come to dominate our world, which is namely energy and resource depletion and global warming.
It's not that we're about to run out of oil and gas, but every oil well, every gas well, reaches a maximum rate of production and then begins to decline. Whole countries max out and decline. Fossil fuels have been an enormous economic boon, but they've created all sorts of problems, including climate change, dependence on foreign sources, oil wars, pollution of water and from fertilizer runoff and petrochemicals, acid rain killing forests, on and on and on. If we can do this one thing, if we can reduce our consumption of fossil fuels and phase them out, we can solve all of those problems at the same time.
Change is caused because we are releasing carbon dioxide into the air.
the sun comes in and warms the Earth's surface. Radiation from the Earth's surface, heat radiation, has to get out in order to balance what comes in. But it's blocked on the way out by what we call greenhouse gases. That's water vapour, carbon dioxide and methane are the most important.
Carbon dioxide is one of the major greenhouse gases.
200 years ago, you see, we began to burn coal and oil and gas. That increased the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide absorbs this radiation. It's like a blanket over the Earth's surface, keeping it warm. If you increase the thickness of the blanket, it gets warmer.
We don't know it, but the weather is becoming more and more unpredictable, just because we're releasing carbon dioxide into the air.
Peak oil and climate change aren't separate issues, they're the same issue. They're built around our addiction to fossil fuels. If we can kick the habit and get off fossil fuels, we can solve both the problems. Evidence is that if we begin to descend the amount of carbon that we release within 100 months, we can avert catastrophe.
People were very slow to change at first.
No one wanted to think, no more cars, planes or apples from the other side of the world.
Imagine that, apples from the other side of the world.
But we all did our bit, and things started to change.
It was amazing, just being part of it.
It started when I was working in Kinsale in Ireland at the further education college there, and we started looking around for, there must be places who are using permaculture principles and sustainability thinking and systems thinking to work out how cities and towns and communities are going to get through peak oil successfully. And we couldn't find any, so we just improvised and did a 20-year plan for the town of Kinsale based on the idea that where we got to at the end could be better than where we start from now. So then when I moved to Totnes the following year, it felt really vital to try and do something to deepen that idea and see how far we could take it. And that was what led to the setting up of Transition Town Totnes.
Welcome, Rob. Welcome, Sean. He said he was gobsmacked when he saw you all. I'm not. Because this is Totnes, isn't it? You can make a difference. And I know that you will.
It's called the transition movement. It's about transitioning out of your current lifestyle to help the local economy and protecting the environment along the way. CBS 4's Molly Hughes looks at this growing trend.
You may be making small steps into transition and not even know it. It can begin with simple changes like switching to energy-efficient light bulbs, recycling more, turning down the thermostat a few degrees, composting, eliminating plastic, using reusable grocery bags, and taking the bus when possible. The transition movement has a place for everyone.
So far in New Zealand, just a handful of towns are taking the idea seriously. We went to one, Raglan, in the Waikato. Here's Mihinarangi Forbes.
Welcome to Soulscape, motel accommodation in Raglan. What makes it different is the way it's powered.
This section is off the grid, and we've installed solar hot water systems and stuff. There's a stream on our back boundary. We gravity feed it to just down there, and then we do have to pump it up here for our water supply.
Phil McCabe is changing his whole business into one that doesn't rely entirely on oil.
We don't need to draw from anywhere else to be where we are. life with dramatically lower energy consumption is inevitable.
At a public meeting a year ago, McCabe put forward the idea that Raglan should minimise its oil dependency. It fuelled genuine change. So when will the price of oil get too high for you? And when it does, how will you fill your car, warm your house or put food on your table? Here in Raglan, they're not waiting to find out. They're coming up with their own ideas for renewable energies. This is one of New Zealand's transition towns.
Fantastic. 1st of October we had 400 odd people arrive in the biggest hall we could find in Norwich. We had people working in small groups at that unleashing on particular themes that have now started out as theme groups. So we were very pleased because it drew in a very wide range of people. It drew in people who were involved in existing groups and it drew in new people. So it did everything we wanted it to do, really.
The structure of this meeting was absolutely amazing because people were centred around, they could immediately share their experiences, share ideas, become involved more proactively. I think it's just a wonderful way of conducting a meeting and it was very inspiring.
We were talking about how a lot of people our age are really excited about learning to drive and how we don't really want to learn to drive right now because we want to not become reliant on like cars and things.
And it's really nice to interact with the wider community and to talk to the elders and to meet people who have lived in this part of the country for so many years.
I feel so frustrated and worried and disillusioned with politicians and what's going on and the inaction about what's happening in the world. So it's really heartening for me to be here and see that actually people are prepared to do something. So, and I'm really pleased that I'm in Norwich now.
I thought the turnout tonight was absolutely amazing. I think there were nearly 400 people here, and that's huge, I have to admit. It's a lot more than I was expecting. I was dead impressed with the organisers, and it makes me optimistic that something's really going to happen here.
Part of a transition group called the Northside Transition 2. And the Northside Transition 2 has started a community hub. People need to be living in community. You don't want you over here and your best friend way over here. You want you here and your best friend here, basically.
The beginning of a dream, really, to turn our local village hall into a zero carbon hall.
It was about 8 months ago that a few of us were in this hall and the feeling was really different. It was our first public event as a transition group and it was really like, oh, what are we doing? We're stepping out into this public arena and we don't know what the response is going to be. We don't know what people's reaction's going to be. And I remember that sense of trepidation, like we're going public. We'd only just had a few meetings in our living room with some friends and neighbours, just feeling our way, and then it was like this first public thing. But we did it.
You can join a transition group. Or if there's not,